So, a lot of parents will do this thing where they will punish you for something that they purely imagine. They won't test reality. They will make sure that they're doing the right thing. They will purely just assume something, come to like a realization about something, then punish you for it, even if it's completely inaccurate and completely fucked up, right? Down the line, this has created a lot of problems for you because now now you don't know how to anticipate other people, how to get in flow with them, because you aren't sure if one thing you say is going to become something that they turn into a whole story, and then now you're the bad guy again. So let me help you understand this and how this works, right? So when you're interacting with people now, you feel kind of scared to trust them. You feel kind of scared to really relax into the interaction. You feel scared of like fully being yourself in the situation because when you're really talking to people, you don't really have the sense of trust with them. You feel kind of on edge, uneasy. You feel like people aren't really going to see you, like they're not going to really understand you. And so it creates a lot of confliction when you're talking to people. Because when you were growing up, not only did your parent make up shit and punish you for it, but also they just sort of lived in their own world altogether. Your parent may have felt neglectful, even if they're very present. Your parent may have been there and they may have like talked to you, but they only talk to you for like informational reasons, like how are you doing in school, hey, how do you feel today. It was never like, hey, let's just chat and chill. They're always like, they always had this demeanor of like business even, right? And a lot of these parents are very like goal oriented, meaning that they care a lot about status, like how people see them, maintaining that display. And there's a very interesting thing you need to understand about these kind of parents is that they are willing to sell out your future in order for their present moment to feel good, right? Meaning that they don't really care fully about how you show up in the future, right? They may say they care, but if someone really cares about how you show up in the future, they're not gonna punish you for stuff that's gonna mentally damage you, right? Because now you're just confused when you're getting punished. Instead of them explaining to you why you're getting punished and what you did wrong and all this stuff, they simply just come up with some creative reason to punish you, and then they punish you for it, right? It's almost as if they get off on it, and some of them do, truthfully, right? Another thing that's very, very detrimental and kind of telling about how they see you is that they don't really consult you or console you after the punishments. They don't act like a parent after the punishment. They act like an executioner. Like they just did something that was their job, and now it's like you got to deal with the consequences because you did the crime. But it's so fucked up because they are your parent. Like think about it. You're a child in the world, and you literally have no one else to depend on besides maybe some aunts, uncles if you have those. But like for the most part, this is your primary caretaker. You're mostly at home alone with them, and it's like whatever they decide happens is what the world around you becomes. If they decide that you're in prison, then that's what it is. You really don't have a lot to say about it as a child, right? Especially if you don't want to end up like in any of these terrible systems, right? So as a child, your really only option is just to listen and be around this person. So in order to facilitate that happening, living cordially with someone who's making up punishments for you, what you had to do was you had to learn to hide yourself in very convenient ways. But what you also might have developed, because when punishments are unclear and rewards are unclear, and it seems like they're just doing it on feeling, what the child will start to do is the child will start to like just be hyper paranoid, hyperactive, because that allows them to kind of sense when a potential punishment may be near, maybe a potential reward is near, because they can't predict it. They don't know what's going to happen, right? And they may memorize everything about the parent just to sort of prepare to avoid a punishment. But this is very fucked up. Like, think about this. Like, the child isn't actually learning to be a person around the parent. They're sort of learning how to predict the parent's random outbursts, right? Instead of learning how to connect to the parent, they're learning how to feel the parent's danger when it's coming towards them. Instead of learning how to see the world and understand other people, they just learn that other people could be potentially dangerous and dangerous for irrational reasons. Imagine the kind of person that gets out of this environment. They would have a hard time trusting people, believing in themselves, believing in other people. And to be frank with you, a lot of people might have even given up on humanity altogether because these kind of problems aren't just like local. Some of these problems are like so normal. Like this problem in particular is so normal. Most people have this problem, right? Most people who grew up in abusive households have experienced this before, where it's like, I didn't do this. So underneath all this trauma that you have is a deep rage, a deep feeling of injustice because you were being targeted for something that you could not control half the time, right? Maybe you were talking too loud. Well, damn, I didn't know talking too loud would get me hit right now. No one explained that to me. So it's like underneath all this shit, you have a lot of rage towards these people. And I can understand why, right? It's completely rational to be angry at this point. Like to be full of rage, not just angry, rage, right? So, but like the thing is, like living this way for your whole life, while you do feel like you have the right to be a victim in a sense, and that you have the right to get back at your parents in somewhat, I do think that there is there is a way to release this and not live with it in the same way that you have been living with it, right? So getting over this trauma in particular is going to be a little difficult because it's connected to many other things, but just dealing with this one in isolation for now, we'll talk about the bigger picture later. You have to kind of recognize that a parent that does this to their child isn't necessarily looking out for their child. They may say they are, they may act like they are, and they may even like pretend that when they're in public, but even they kind of know that this kind of behavior isn't really good around certain kind of people. They have that awareness. They know that not to do it in front of the police, for instance, not to do it in this way. So they are aware that what they're doing isn't the best way to treat you. So that's the first thing you got to recognize. You know, some of these people are fucked up. You know, the second thing is that you have to really tune into like, are they doing this from a place of like trying to help me and they're just misguided, or are they seeking control, right? And your life and your childhood would tell you that, right? So look at that. And if they are seeking control, then the next question you have to ask is, how do they perceive love, and how do I perceive love as a result of being raised this way? Was love even something you considered growing up? You know, it's so interesting because I feel like in my own experience dealing with this, I feel like I a lot of times I would call this love because maybe I thought they were looking out for me. So that's another thing you may want to think about. Like, don't fall for the illusion of thinking your parent is looking out for you by doing this. You see, because think about how much you've lost as a result of this kind of process, right? You've lost a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of mental bandwidth, a lot of nervous system space to learn different things. You've lost a lot of information about yourself. You lost a lot of information about your generation because you spent so much time worrying instead of actually being present, right? So think about how much time you haven't been present in life. So how much life just flown by you. So when you're getting over this, you kind of have to realize that first thing at first, you are losing a lot by enduring this, right? So understanding the parent is important to understand, but understanding your rage is also very important to understand, and being like, okay, I deserve to be fucking angry about this shit. You know, maybe we'll make a part two where we talk about resolving it completely, but it's part of a bigger system. So if you want that, let me know in the comments if you want part two. But in the meantime, you can check out the Stand store and purchase anything in there to help you with your trauma. So yeah, peace, guys.